Protests, strikes, uproar. Israel is facing widespread unrest, one of the biggest domestic crises in its history after the government pushed a controversial legal reform that weakens the Supreme Court of the country. The new legislation, known as the Reasonableness Bill, is an amendment that removes one of the tools the Supreme Court has for quashing government and ministers' decisions it deems unreasonable. The plan for the judicial overhaul was proposed earlier this year, and the people opposing have been holding weekly protests ever since. The situation escalated when, despite the opposition, the Benjamin Netanyahu-led government passed the bill into a law on 24th July. Protesters packed the streets of Israel, calling for the reforms to be scrapped and demanded Netanyahu's resignation. Political rivals, former chief justices, former top officials in the military and security services have also joined these protests. Doctors have gone on strikes against the move. Thousands of Israeli reserve doctors have suspended their military service in the army to register their protests. Air Force pilots have also threatened to refuse to report to duty. Opponents of Netanyahu say that the reform will gravely undermine the country's democracy and weaken the judicial system. This is a direct opposition to right-wing government and Netanyahu himself. Many critics believe that the reforms will directly shield Netanyahu, who's currently under trial for alleged corruption. This will also help the government to pass laws without any checks. There is a fear that this will make way for corruption and compromise gatekeepers who keep government in check. The government, however, says that the judiciary interferes a lot with the legislation and is biased in support of liberal issues. The government also wants to change the way judges are selected because the current processes are undemocratic. Other than the reasonableness law, there are concerns that the government wants to weaken the Supreme Court and wants the majority on one side in the Knesset to overrule such decisions, decide who becomes the judge in courts by increasing government representation in committees that appoint them, and do away with the requirement for ministers to obey legal advisors, which they have to do by law. Amid the massive protests, numerous petitions have been filed in the Supreme Court against the legislation, including by the Israel Bar Association. The Supreme Court has said that it will hear the appeals but will not issue an injunction to block it before September, when it plans to debate the law. This decision brings Israel to the brink of constitutional crisis. Israel doesn't have a written constitution. It is governed by a series of basic laws and previous court rulings. The Israeli parliament enacted these laws with the view that a formal constitution will be made in the future. A country with no upper chamber of the parliament, Israel has a very strong Supreme Court. But Netanyahu argues that it has become too powerful and an overhaul was long overdue to rebalance the powers between the judiciary, lawmakers and the government. With swelling protests, threats of strikes, the turmoil is far from over in Israel.